Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center in Spokane, Washington, where our mission is transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. My name is Reverend Jane Simmons, and I'm here with Dr. Gary Simmons, our co-minister. You'll be hearing from him today. We want to begin our time by saying together our opening affirmation. I will speak it once and then invite you to join with me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together.
There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good.
One presence, one power, one life, living itself as and through each one of us. We want to give you some news you can use. One of the things is that Reverend David McClure is starting a class called Creating a World That Works for All, and it's based on the book by Sharif Abdullah of that name. It starts September 2nd, and you can sign up for that by going to the e-news and clicking to take you through to the registration form. You can find out more information there as well. Also, when he's complete with that class, he will be starting a second one, and so watch for more information on that. Sean and Tani Wright, our wonderful music directors, are starting a Zoom choir this fall. So if you like to sing and you want to be a part of that, watch for more information on that. It'll be coming your way. Anything more? That's it.
I think it's time for meditation.
I think it's time for meditation. Okay. So I want to invite everyone.
No,
first we'll have a song.
It's the song, not meditation.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed.
Thank you, Sean and Tani. And I can't think of a more perfect song to take us into our time of meditation. And so I invite you, wherever you find yourself geographically, to begin to connect to the deeper source within you, the deeper dimension in which every one of us is connected. So I invite you to move your attention throughout your body. Scan your body, feeling your feet all the way up through your legs, trunk of your body, shoulders, arms and hands. Move your awareness through your neck to your head and face. And as you do this scan, just notice any places of tension. Notice around your eyes, your jaw, tongue, neck and shoulders. Stomach. Anywhere you find tension, just release it. And if you have trouble releasing it, you can tense it up for a moment and then release. We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We feel the stress of day-to-day living. And we hold that tension in our bodies. And just for now, let it go. As you release any thoughts or cares or worries, as we let that go, we enter the present moment. We can't bring those cares with us into the present. Otherwise, we just stay stuck in the past or the future. And we don't truly inhabit the present moment. And so as we give ourselves permission to let go, knowing the world is going to carry on without us fretting about it, we feel that tension just melt away. Now notice how your body feels. Notice what you can hear. All the sounds around you. Begin to observe your breathing. Don't try to control it or change it. Just step into the role of observer and watch it. Allow that sense of being breathed to arise within you. Feel yourself centered in the greater mind. Knowing that you are safe and you are loved beyond measure. Just the way you are, right now. Let your awareness expand like the sky. And let your thoughts just drift through this awareness like the clouds. Let each moment arise and let it fall. And know that we can step into the eternal moment and just allow it to be what it is. And in this peaceful place, bring into your awareness someone or something that you deeply appreciate and love. Could be a person, a beloved pet, a cherished memory. Choose something that activates the feeling and allow it to grow and expand until it warms your heart and spills out beyond your heart. Bathing every cell of your body in this beautiful vibration of appreciation and love. Feel your aliveness. Know that every cell of your body is being invigorated by this healing power. And then let that feeling expand and radiate beyond your body as we align ourselves with the vibration of oneness. We open our hearts in gratitude for the truth that sets us free. We are each expressions of the divine, here to be the one, to make the difference in our world, in our lives, the presence of peace and compassion and kindness. And we let this grow and expand as we send it forth to heal our world. Feel it. Know it. Be it. And so we continue to breathe into the heart space and allow that feeling of gratitude and love be expressed from within us in the silence. God is our source. Our divine source. of all that is holy and blessed in our world. And as we align ourselves with the beauty of the presence, we open a portal to the deeper dimension within and all the treasures that lie within us. And each one of us is here to express those treasures. And for this, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.
Wow, that's great. So my talk is the presence practice. I'm going to be looking at what it means to be activating a dimension of ourself that can matter in whatever moment that we're having. But first I want to connect up this talk to what happened last week with, I wonder what that is. Let's see. Hopefully that's not me. Okay. All right. So I'm wanting to connect up the talk with what Jane said last week. When we get stuck in the past or lost in worries about the future, we nudge out the present moment, making it uninhabitable. Just think about that for a moment. I mean, think about something that's not inhabitable, like a desert, desolate. So when we bring the past or our cares about the future, there's a stuck place that creates an impossible situation for ourselves. We're kind of in this place where we have to do something about how we're feeling about what's happening in the outer. And so whenever we kind of find ourselves lost in needing to be right or having to have things be a certain way, we're no longer present. We're no longer connected to that field of infinite possibilities where we can tap into a dimension of our capacity to be unto whatever we're having, the one. And so I'll be exploring ideas that really help us connect to the power of the present moment. But first of all, I want to take those of you who are baby boomers, remember the hippie days and be here now. Remember be here now, Ram Dass? Remember what it was like to kind of bask in that principle. And then there's Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. We've all been in some way touched by the principle that within the now moment there is a potential to bring forth a possibility that is absolutely perfect and necessary for whatever is needing to be evolved or manifested or brought forth. And so as we kind of look at the present moment, be here now, I'm wanting to kind of unravel certain kind of complexities when it comes to kind of understanding the dynamic, the principle of the now moment, and the things that happen psychologically when we are eclipsing the now moment with our psychological material, our shadow or our cares about what's happening in the future. So I'll be making the differentiation between what is meant by the presence, or the presence of God, let's say, and the present moment. And so this is not a talk about practicing the presence of God. However, at the end of the talk, you could say, wow, this is perfectly about practicing the presence of God. But that's not where I'm coming from. I'm wanting to come from another place. And so another question that is going to help reveal the importance of really being with what's happening in the present moment is that there's something about the present moment that we have to recognize only happens then and there, in the present moment, in the now. And so we could look at the present moment in a number of different dimensions, but what I'm wanting to kind of unpack is that we have to first reconcile the dynamic of psychological time. In other words, it appears as if living in a three-dimensional world that there's past, present, and future. And while that is something that is called clock time, it's something that we're all used to. And so what we're basically saying is that when we find ourselves preoccupied, either in the past or in the future, then little can happen in the present moment that shifts us into an authentic expression of who and what we've come here to be. And so when we recognize there's a distinction between psychological time, but when we contrast it to the quantum field, the quantum principles, in the quantum realm, there is no time. Because it's not three-dimensional, it's once we get to the fifth dimension, we get into no time. Don't ask me to explain the quantum science behind it, but just let us just sense that there is a timeless dimension of ourself when we can connect up to a part of ourself that is connected to the whole thing, connected to the all of life. And so somehow we have to reacquaint ourselves with the field of infinite possibility that only resides in the present moment, because it's the portal to no time. It's the portal to the infinite and eternal. But we can't get to it if we've nudged out the portal with all of our baggage, all of our stuff. So somehow we have to translate our relationship to the present moment if we are to enter into what could be described as the here and now. Following me so far? I hope so. Because what we want to do is we want to kind of transform the dynamic of psychological time in the context of the present moment, and then begin to dimensionalize that principle in terms of the field of infinite possibilities. And so how can we do that? Well, let's just do a little word change just for a moment. And let's call it presence. And let's have it, let's define it in the context of some dimension of ourself that is capable of interacting with whatever is happening, independent of all the baggage that we bring to the whole experience of our present moment reality. And so as we get in touch with a quantum principle, a scientific reality, that there lives within us this dimension that we can activate that enables us to transcend the psychological baggage that defines us in the context of our sense of separation, our living in a sense that we don't matter, or you know what I'm trying to say, I think. But suffice to say, until we re-engage an understanding that this moment that we're having is a portal to everything that we would seek to have as a part of the good that we would want to call forth in our life, we need to have the capacity to break through the illusion of a life that looks and feels against us. And because the body has been trained to push away the experience the moment that we dip into some discomfort, we have to recondition that impulse in us to push away what we're having. Instead, do something else. Enter into what's happening in the context of the present moment. That's calling us into the expression of presence in that very situation, you see. Okay, so I like to draw upon Eckhart Tolle. He has made the understanding of the power of the now moment very clear for many of us who have been benefited by his teaching. And I had the experience of meeting Eckhart Tolle in the cafeteria at Unity Village. He was there to be interviewed by Unity Village staff. He was going to be published through Unity. And he was just going through the line, you know. He took the vegetarian dish, and I took the fried chicken dish. And so we looked at each other, and I said hello, and I refrained from introducing myself as some principal within the greater organization, but just kind of acknowledged his presence and welcomed him to Unity Village. And then later that same day, I had the opportunity of meeting with the person that interviewed him for 5 or 6 hours, collecting all this rich information. And I said, what was it like to be with Eckhart Tolle? And she paused for a moment, and she said, it was like being with nobody. I mean, it was like there wasn't any ego there. And it was something that was so interesting to experience, that there was such a effervescent presence, but without any sense that I need something, or I have something that you need from me. Anyway, I wanted to share a video clip that Eckhart's asked the question, talk about the surface of the present moment and how to reach the depths of the present moment. And so let's give a watch and see where it takes the conversation next.
The surface of the present moment, as I call it, is whatever you perceive with your senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, whatever. So that's the surface of the present moment is sensory perception, external. And that's already beginning, if to become more acutely aware of sensory perception, it's a way of entering the present moment. The expression you can use for that is come to your senses. Come to your senses. Because when you come to your senses, you step out of the stream of thinking. So to really give attention to something, you withdraw by giving attention to sensory perception, what's around you. You withdraw attention from thought. So there's not enough consciousness available now to make thoughts, because the consciousness is not directed towards sense perception. And that's the surface of the present moment. And that's already a wonderful thing, to wake up into your surroundings where you are. And you realize you might have been for hours trapped in your thought, only peripherally aware of your surroundings. And then you listen and you look. And you feel perhaps a breeze touching your skin. There might be certain scents in the air. And that's I call that the present moment, but it's the surface of the present moment. And then you become aware of yourself, not as the person, but as the consciousness that is perceiving, because without consciousness there would be no perception. And so you become aware of that still, alert background to your sense perceptions, and that is the depth dimension of the present moment. That's the one thing that never changes. You're always that conscious, you are always that conscious space. Now what the surface of the present moment undergoes continuous change, of course. There's the continuous flux of phenomena. And what does not change is the depths of the present moment, because the depth of the present moment is the space of consciousness. So at the deepest level, the present moment is the unconditioned consciousness, the space for everything.
So as we take that to heart, what Eckhart is trying to have us understand is that the surface of the present moment is in the context of sensing what is happening in the moment, absent of our story that we make up about it. So how can we do that? It's to come to our senses and really focus on what we're experiencing via those inputs. But that's just the surface of the present moment. The moment that we dip into our thinking, then here comes the thoughts and all the baggage, and then we step out of the present moment. So if we stay in the sense of feeling what our experience is, and then understand that underlying the depth of that experience is the observer, the witness, the consciousness that is unchanging behind what is being experienced in the outer, then we're able to begin to see that activating a part of ourselves that is a witnessing or being with what we're having from that internal state of being connected to the depth of the present moment, then we remain connected to the field of infinite possibilities. And we make it possible that we can enter into the experience of whatever it is that we're having, not from our separate self, but from the part of us that is activated as we awaken to the consciousness that is our essence, the consciousness behind our felt experience. So all of this is important in principle. Now we still have to create a practice around actually being with what's happening in this energetic equivalent of whatever it means to be presence unto what we're having. So I haven't quite painted the complete picture yet. So let's get a little clearer as to what's going on when we're looking at the dynamics of what happens when we're lost in our earthly experience. All negativity, Eckhart suggests, is caused by accumulation of psychological time and a denial of the present moment. So for instance, our stress and anxiety and tension and worry and all sorts of fear are caused by too much future going on in our life and not enough of the presence. And the same is true for the guilt and the regrets and the disappointments, and the unforgiveness is caused by too much past and not enough in the present moment. So we can understand and nod our head saying, yes, that makes perfect sense, but it doesn't necessarily help us in the moment when we're struggling with our own discomfort and being overwhelmed by all that's attached to. How can we be in the experience of our negativity and somehow overcome that? It's like pulling ourselves up through our own bootstraps. It's not something that comes naturally to us. So now let's look at what Dr. Joe has to suggest about activating what could be described another dimension of what is a component part of the phenomenon of presence, and that is where our attention and awareness is placed. So we have the present moment, but if our attention is not diving into the depths of that present moment, we're still kind of entangled in the dynamics of our conditioned self. And so we have to practice training our awareness, because oftentimes our awareness is captured by what's happening, and we don't feel or think that that's something that we can change within ourselves. But we have autonomy over our attention awareness with practice. That's the purpose of meditation. So Dr. Joe says, when you walk through the door of the quantum field, you can't enter into it as somebody. You have to enter in as nobody, as only an awareness, or as a consciousness, or a thought, or a possibility, leaving behind everything else in the physical world and living only in the present moment. So what this means to say is that we have to be with whatever's happening, independent of all the markers that define us in the context of our limited self, or our separate self, or our ego. And while this is more than just a principle, but as it is a practice, we have to struggle to be with what's happening. And when we're face to face with all the triggers and all the stuff that comes up, we have to seek our refuge in a dimension of ourself that eclipses all that phenomenon. But it takes practice. Now, Dr. Joe is going to share what he believes is the most important practice with respect to where we train, how we train our awareness. And so, check this out.
It's so important then that of the infinite places you can put your attention, let's put it on your heart. Now, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Why? Because we want this center to bloom. 1,400, 1,300 different chemicals that restore and regenerate the body. Let's breathe, let's open this up, let's practice this. Let's start learn how to lead with our heart, a different consciousness. Yeah, in the beginning, it's a little difficult, but you stay with it and you practice it, petal by petal by petal. You're placing your attention there, you're putting your own life force back into your heart. You're turning your love inward, and the body will start responding. And in a week's time, if we're doing that 3 times a day or over and over again, sooner or later, that thing's going to start blooming. This center, when you start feeling love, you make a chemical called oxytocin. Oxytocin signals nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals a chemical called derived endothelial relaxing factor. You know what that is? It causes the arteries in your heart to literally open up. So your heart is going to be filled with blood and oxygen and nutrients. It's physiological. It's going to feel full. And when that happens, you experience a level of love that passes all understanding. Your cup runneth over. And so then, side effect of it is that all of a sudden you're happy for no reason, and you're less seduced in believing that you need something outside of you to make you feel better. All of a sudden you're feeling better every day. So then, as we begin to remove these layers that stop the flow of the divine in us, that in essence in us, the side effect is we become more willful, we become more mindful, we become more conscious, we become more loving. It's its nature, you know.
Yes.
It just becomes who we are.
So as we look at activating a dimension of ourself, Dr. Joe is talking about activating the heart chakra and experiencing a dimension of what is possible when we fill ourselves intentionally with a felt experience of gratitude, love, compassion, appreciation. So let me ask you this. Do you know somebody who's had a near-death experience, who's had the experience of being greeted by benevolent beings with such absolute love that they come back into the world now, having reconciled all of their sense of limitation and then now coming forth and living a renewed life? Well, what if we could access that same absolute love that lives as we hypothesize in the afterlife? What if we could activate that same absolute love right now, here in this moment, and then connect that absolute love to who and what we've come here to be as a witness of the activity of Spirit at work in our life? So as we look at a phenomenon called presence and recognizing that it emerges, it arises as we enter into the portal of the present moment. Once again, it's a sensual experience. It doesn't happen with just figuring it out. We have to feel ourselves into a dimension of connection to the infinite and eternal, and then activate a felt experience of absolute love and connect that to what is happening in my here now moment relationship. So to put it in a sense of understanding the phenomenon, present moment awareness rooted in heart-centered coherence enables presence to arise as an energetic field of love, connection, and divine intentionality. From this context, we become the one unto our own life and unto the world. And so think about this. Let's not go over this too quickly. When we take the present moment awareness, our sense that we are the awareness behind our perceptual experience, and you connect that up to the field of heart-centered coherence, where we're activating that dimension of absolute love, the awareness that if we could shine that same light of God's love and presence towards ourselves, we would see ourselves as we truly are, as a divine intentionality that is seeking to unfold an experience in this world that matters and makes a difference. But we have to first wash ourselves completely of any sense of unworthiness or any doubt that we are not the one unto our life. We have to practice being unto our own life the one. And in order to be able to do that, we have to begin to untether ourselves to all the artifacts that say that we're less than or that we're not enough. And this just doesn't happen because we wish it away. It happens as we authentically touch the dimension of ourself, which actually affirms what we're seeking to live and express and have the experience in our life. It affirms that we're here, that we matter, that we make the difference. And so I'm wanting us to kind of look at now how we can put into a practice what we could call the presence practice, and to link it to that. What that really means is that I'm going to be paying attention to how I can be unto my life the one, how I can matter in this moment. And I won't ever get there if I'm still kind of being kind of bombarded by all of the things that happen when we live believing that we're separate and apart. So we have to have a practice that we settle all that busyness in our head down and then activate a dimension of ourself that pulls us into the felt experience of our connection and oneness. And then we bring that awareness into whatever is happening in the moment and say, how can I be unto this the one? All right, so let's put this into a kind of another perspective. Eckhart says, whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if we chose it. Now, I don't know about you, but that's kind of that raises the bar a bit with respect to the spiritual work that is required. But when we recognize that there's a part of us that has chosen it, and that's the presence, and we're the one unto it, and it is what we can use to bring forth that which is seeking to be expressed through us. When we recognize that, then now we need to begin to cultivate that, because that's not what we're used to doing. We're used to pushing away. We're used to making somebody the matter with us. We're used to having to have things be a certain way or need to be right. We're not used to opening our heart and recognizing the truth of who we are and what we've come here to be. And so let's talk about how we can kind of make that real solid for ourselves. So the presence practice is all about being the one unto our own life. And so just think about that for a moment. How have you been someplace in your life the one? And because you were the one, it's not like you're the one all by yourself, but because there was nobody else but you, something got created that was necessary. And so as you begin to think in those terms, you will see that there are those times, there are those moments. You know, I was the one when I wrote the peace statement, because nobody in the Unity movement thought to do that, and it fell to me to do it because I was somebody that thought that should be done. And so that's how that was brought into being. I had to be the one for my own treatment of cancer, because there was nothing out there that was going to help me other than me allowing my own guidance to pull me into an alternative path that was very, very difficult, but it yielded an absolute remission. But our journey is looking at now, recontextualizing our life so that we can be with what we're having in a whole different way. It's always for us, but we have to be the one in order to bring that principle into the absolute in our own personal reality. So, number 2 in this process, think about, if you're the presence unto your own life, what would be revealed to you as the presence in you, as that absolute love in you, looks back on your past, looks back on your regrets. What does that presence, that absolute love, begin to illumine in you about your past experience and what it ultimately means and matters to you? And when you look at your past, when I have my presence look at my past, it allows me to see the wisdom that my past experiences contain. But I have to get beyond all of the stickiness of my regrets and disappointments. I have to see those regrets and disappointments as an effect of having taken on beliefs about myself as opposed to the truth of who I am. And so my presence in me looks back at my past and it sees wisdom. And the same thing can happen when the presence in me looks at my fears and worries. And when my presence and that absolute love looks at that part of me that is in fear or worry, it translates into vision, into possibility. I don't see the fears or what might happen or afraid. I begin to see what my vision is of the future, what I want to create, because that's what presence wants to lift me into, as opposed to trying to resolve the part of me that lives in the belief that there's something out there that is against me. And then finally, what does presence reveal to you about your own worth? And to really live into that question and have the absolute love in you answer that for you. And discover that there's only been our own past experience that has kept us from welcoming the absolute bounty of life once we know our worth, know that we matter, know that our presence is a part of the great tapestry of wholeness and well-being that is seeking to be brought forth into this world. So let me just quickly recap, and then we'll take it to heart. So the present moment, or the present practice, is a practice of being heart-centered with whatever is happening in the context of witnessing and being with the experience, not from the layers of ourself, but from that place within us where we are the consciousness of our oneness and connection with the infinite and the eternal, and we feel our connection and allow that feeling to pour into the experience that we're having, and allow that process to illumine the intuitive dimension of our higher self, so that we say and do what is necessary and good with respect to whatever is happening or having in our life. Now, that's not something that's just going to come naturally to us. Unfortunately, everything that I've described has taken me a long time to achieve and to acquire. However, we're at an accelerated rate of spiritual transformation. So what has taken me 40 years to unfold in my own spiritual path and journey can take you 4 weeks if you focus on really practicing what is essential. And the essential practice is becoming heart-centered. Heart-centered. Bring your awareness to your heart. God bless. Time to take it to heart.
Time to take it to heart. Yeah, I love how you can articulate these really complex things in a wonderful way. Thank you for that. It occurred to me that, Dr. Joe says you can't enter the present moment unless you're nobody. And then having Eckhart Tolle described as nobody, that what's missing is that psychological baggage. And where Eckhart Tolle appears to be someone who just doesn't have that. They're like so transparent, they're in their present moment and that's what's coming out. I think Byron Katie is like that as well, just very childlike, where she just with whatever's showing up. But to have Dr. Joe say it in another way, that you can't enter the present moment with your psychological baggage. It has to be left at the door.
Right. When I was working on this talk, we got that little letter from the IRS.
I do remember.
And we've already talked about that we were going to incur some tax liability because we were very aggressive at benefiting from our retirement and using it to manage our retirement home.
Yes, we were.
And in that moment when we were told or given the ultimatum that we would be owing all this money by September 7th, otherwise suffer a daily interest rate and compounded, it was just overwhelming to receive this when I've been living for the last 6 months with absolutely no sense of not enough or insufficiency. And I immediately went there. I immediately went to, how are we going to do this? And I forgot that we had set up an installment plan and all this other kind of stuff, but I had to really, after really focusing on this as this talk, I had to really shift. And I did. I shifted within probably 45 minutes. Well, anyway, that's the story I'm making up.
Maybe a little longer.
Yeah, I got to a place.
Quickly.
I got to a place where I really felt that, okay, this is for us. And so I simply asked, what do I need to do to address what is needed in order to fulfill whatever is required? And so that took place, and all is well as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I will say that this about Gary, he gets to a place of equanimity pretty quickly when he's been triggered, and I just need you to know that that's very annoying.
Well, you heard it first, right from her. And our dynamic is very interesting because she'll get annoyed about my unannoyance, and then I will be frustrated with her. I'll be frustrated with your exuberance about pointing out what's wrong with the things that are happening here.
Right.
So.
Yes. So I think the answer to that is being in the present moment.
Yeah.
That when I get up and I'm in a good place and I read something on Twitter and I'm immediately to remember it's the psychological baggage showing up.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Well, that's.
Well, again, we want to thank you all for your continued support of our center. We can do it without you, and we very much appreciate that. But so let's take a moment now and do a moment of gratitude for that giving, as we say our offering blessing together.
Okay.
I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. And we are don't forget to join us for our Zoom meet and greet coming up in the next few minutes. But before that, we're going to
affirm our closing prayer.
We're going to do the prayer for protection, and it will be the affirmative version that we have used to do so much. We're going to do it again.
Would you stand with me?
And then, yes, but then there's more.
Right, there's more.
We'll follow that with the peace song, which I believe is from Unity Village Chapel.
That's right.
They've made a recording.
Right, all their music people came together and through the magic of technology have created the peace song. And so
we'll do the Zoom peace song together.
All right. So let's begin.
The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God.
Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
And that's the truth.
All right.
So it is. So please join us after the peace song. And I'm going to go.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in the perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my song.